My coach did not believe in lifting weights, and he was an Army general, special forces for over 24 years, and was absolutely not the one to play with when it came down to learning and being all about the, let's just say, the old school way. He was military, and that was a strong method behind his belief system in not lifting weights, and was a champion in the army in boxing. So when you think about me, someone who believed in weightlifting, I did know that it impeded you in some ways, but it was more or less what my general, perception of weightlifting was. Like anybody, too much is bad. But right here you see how I develop my fighters, right? And I had to figure out how can I actually convince him to take upon my science. Now, lo and behold, this was a picture of my coach. He was over 300 pounds and he was no joke. And don't get it twisted. That picture of him smiling, that was not who he was when he was inside of that boxing gym. He had brought me into his camp physically, anointed me as head trainer, head coach, head trainer. He's the coach, so I'm the head coach. When he did that, it was during the 2004 Olympics when he was coaching with Andre Ward and Andre Durrell. And when you think about how those guys thought back then, let's just say he came out of the 70s and 80s and 90s, and they had a stellar belief that weight training is not the pathway if you're going to box. So today what we're going to do is get into how did I actually smooth him and get to a place where I could present my training system to him. So I'll take you through the walk so that you will really learn how I had to go through this in order to really get the green light to start developing athletes with weights, but in a proper way. So, I get a lot of flack sometimes. I get a lot of support too when I talk about you shouldn't weight lift. But when it's all said and done, it's not about you shouldn't weight lift. It should be you should understand what comes with weightlifting. Now, 99.9% of people who are watching this, they know about weight training, but they don't understand how to prevent what comes with it. They're just like, okay, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna hit the barbell. I'm gonna pull off of the barbell, and then I'm gonna do some dumbbells. I'm gonna lighten it up as my muscles get bigger. See, that's that guy. But I'm going to introduce you to training systems, muscle systems, and energy systems that's going to change your entire perception. And you'll know why I stand firm on what I believe, because I understand the human body. And I've had over 4 decades working with the human body. And I'm going to educate and give you guys some great pearls to take. So let's get directly into kind of like, how did it come to life? So as we were training, we had a 32-0 heavyweight, and we had who was undefeated, and we had Julius, who was also undefeated. He was a champion as well. Hadn't got the world title yet, but had an intercontinental title. Donnell Holmes had the WBC intercontinental title. And then we had guys like Oliver McCall, who came in. He was also a WBA world champion, knocked out Lennox Lewis, was Mike Tyson's chief sparring partner when Mike Tyson was the guy not to be messed with. And then, of course, Ray Mercer, who had the fight of the year, was a gold medal Olympian, and he was also a heavyweight champion. This was the atmosphere that I was in. And I had to learn things from, let's just say, Trevor Graham, who's one of the most celebrated guys that ever coached in track and fields. And when these individuals, this was our circle. So we had, like, I'm going to paint the picture. There were it was 6 gold medal Olympians in our gym training at one time, a multitude of world champions, because if you got champions in your facility, what's going to happen is everybody's going to come and take part. Everybody who's in real boxing understands that. That's how it works. When you're hot, everything, Virgil Hunter actually was coaching in the Olympics with my coach. So there's individuals that have that kind of cachet that they truly understand. And now a good friend of mine who was also in that Olympics was Andre Durrell, and I got to really meet firsthand and really build a relationship, because just know, like, we were tied together way before we knew each other. And when we talk about muscle training systems, see, I was in a place where my coach, he was just so stern, and he taught all his fighters, and I learned a lot because not getting the opportunity to immediately introduce it to his guys. So he would come to me and say, "Yo, E," that's what he called me. "Yo, E, I want you to, look, cuz I want you to, work with so and so today." So I could work with him in training drills and training, heavy bag, or whatever, sparring, coaching, all that stuff. Okay. Now there are periods of time during the day that guys may have not gotten in what they needed to get in, or gotten to the gym early, and they had a big event coming on. So I'm gonna paint a picture of an event coming up. When it's an event coming up, I will go back to when we fought against Chris Bird, and there was a ton of people flying in to get work. They were coming from Atlanta, they were coming from Florida, they were coming from the West Coast, they were coming from New York, they were coming from DC. There were wall-to-wall killers in the gym. It's just like the Kronk gym. My coach really understood how to pull people together, right? And when you got that full echelon of absolute thoroughbred boxers, you got to get an opportunity to test what you do. So here's the T. When I got the opportunity, it was right before I got flown out to Jacksonville to be the strength and conditioning coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, because I'd worked with one of the top people in that organization. And what came about that is that he said, "I've been in the NFL for 15 years. You're the best I ever seen." I understood training science, physical development better than anyone that I've ever known, other than people like Mackie Shilstone, who, if you don't know Mackie Shilstone, you don't know anything about strengthening and conditioning and at the higher level of sports performance. He was so grateful to take Michael Spinks and build him up to fight Larry Holmes. He defeated an undefeated 48-0 Larry Holmes twice, working with Mackie Shilstone, because he understood muscle systems, blood, oxygenation, active muscle, all of those things. And he then did the same thing with Roy Jones Jr., took him from 168, 175 to 200 pounds to beat John Ruiz to win the heavyweight title. 2 light heavyweights he took to become heavyweights. That's something different. So oxygenating the muscle is not just lifting weights, because the first thing you're doing immediately is taking oxygen away. So I'm going to break down, and thank you guys for being patient. I'm going to break down exactly what it looks like. So we're going to get into some terms that you guys can use. And sometimes I would tell you to take notes, but you actually don't have to take notes right now, because this is a series and we're going to go into this week, and you will have handouts. If you have been a subscriber, you'll get a handout and you'll be able to use it, implement it. So all you got to do is be patient, unless you're going to use some of these techniques today. Now, the first term we're going to get into that helped me introduce this to my coach was eccentric training. It's control eccentric training, and which is what I termed freeze PRNs. And what does this mean? It's a slow negative, right? Because the first thing that happens when you start to lift weights is you start to compound muscle density. Therefore, not only is your blood going to get compacted and trapped, then the oxygen is going to have a harder time being delivered, because now you're going to have a grouped form of lactic acid building up on the muscle and eating it away. So therefore, when you may not even be tired, you can get muscle exhaustion from the lactic acid that is building up on the muscle and breaking it down. So therefore, you're not getting oxygenation. So how do you do this? Well, you have to compound the very fast twitch muscle with slow twitch muscle development. And slow twitch muscle development is implemented doing things like control eccentric training, slow negatives. And let me put this on the screen so you guys can see. And if you like to get familiar with the terms, you don't even have to worry about it, because this is what we're going to talk about all week. Hold on one second. I got a person speaking, and I'm going to speak to anybody with comments, but I'm going to definitely dive into the lesson, because I want you guys to really understand why I say those things. I'm an expert, okay, because I got 10,000 hours 9 times over. So that means I'm over 100,000 hours in this. I've just been in this field since 1993. So that's 32 years just in this part of it. Okay, so when we go into this, when I look at it, I thought about why does most athletes, and I'm gonna show you kind of like a progression of a program and what we actually do to build. See, this is part of some of the development of the program. And so this is kind of what it looks like when you're doing some of these moves. And if you want to look at, this is one of my guys when he was an amateur. There's a lot of division in the muscle. Some of it's natural, but some of it is how we build. And throughout the video, you'll see what it looks like when you have oxygenated muscle. It's fluid. It's very, very relaxed, and it's loaded with oxygen. And so when you put all of this together, this is where you'll start finding out that there's an actual system behind building muscles using weight. And we use the term reconstructing your muscular network using weight training, not just lifting weights, which is what 99% of the individuals that I see doing, that's what they're doing. They're lifting weights. They're not weight training. And because you add different regimens to your workout does not mean it's weight training. That's why this week is going to be very insightful for you to understand. Let it be known, I've been in this game since 1993 on a professional level, and I've been in and around it for a decade before that. So just know experiences matter, and I want to give you nothing but things that have been beta tested, universities, and on the world championship level and in professional sports. Collegiate sports, the University of North Carolina. I have athletes that I've designed and built and sent them to college. It's been my life. So I love that I can share the story with you. So the next thing that is a benefit of the control eccentric training, which is what I call freeze PRNs, is that you actually get to, it improves things like coordination. So I'm gonna put that on the screen. Believe it or not, you get more oxygen, you get more coordination, and it's just not to be saying it. And the slow movement actually increases the neuromuscular control. So what does that mean? It means when you are in a position, when you are building that body, sometimes you feel like you get to a place where your muscles are shaking. You might be in a stance and your leg might give. You might be trying to stabilize and you just tank out. You're just not in total control. It continues to enhance what you are not only able to do, but just what's inside of you now. You're in control over that. And that gives you just a different level of confidence. And it really shows you where you measure up. And beside this picture is kind of what in the 12 peaks formula is more or less the day one. So there's a day one kind of workout, and you can kind of see this is the introductory to how to prepare your body for weight training and preparation for your body to get to a place that you can actually weight train. You'll get to a place where you're working your body using this process, man. You'll be like, okay, I don't even need to weight train, because it's the method in which you're learning how to use your body. And when you learn how to use your body doing these calisthenics that are in this program, what happens is when you get to the weight training, you already have a bevy of methods that you truly understand what they do. So you just are further ahead of the game. You're going to have more insight and more true, credibility moving into the next layers. So one of the things that really got to a place where I started to focus on how am I going to introduce it. So what I decided to do is I brought in the younger athletes. And when my coach was working with the professionals, what he'd say was, he told me, it is so important that they know the nutrition. But one thing that he wasn't very acute on was a process of weight loss through nutrition. So what I did, because I'm an expert in that way, people all have consistently told me that I lose 15 pounds just knowing you, just being next to you. That's an ongoing joke, because I live a certain way and I like to live that way. I like to live conscious of, sorry, my mic is kind of messed up. Hold on. I'm back. So with that being said, I literally would get to a place where I'm helping people out and getting them to the nutrition. So how did I do it? How did I get him to believe in my way of training? So what I would do is I stopped lifting weights myself, and I was jacked up. I mean, my body was like huge with muscle, but it was more active and oxygenated for the most part. So what I did is I took the younger athletes and I put them on it. So there were guys coming into the gym and they would be overweight. They were too big for the weight classes. And so I had like 4 guys at one time. And I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to take those guys and I was going to demonstrate directly in front of them. So I had one guy, he was 100, he was 203, 200 and no, he was 208 pounds. He was 208 pounds. I took him from 208 to 238 pounds. Just muscle. He was 6'4", so he can handle it. He didn't want to fight at cruiserweight. He wanted to fight at heavyweight. He looked the same when I took him to 238 because I used a system that helped him develop all oxygenated muscle. And like I showed you a picture a minute ago, this is what it looks like when the muscles are oxygenated. Sorry. This is what it looks like, right? So I took them to particular running programs. They trained a particular kind of way. They stayed fluidly loose, constant. They shadow box. And if you watch his muscles, this was T. He was
block, drop, counter, create angles.
You seen this.
Do this 8 to 10 rounds.
These guys. And then they went to optimal running program, right? Wild Prince ended up becoming a champion, and the fluidity of the program continually, if you look at these pictures, this is up in DC where Keyshawn Davis and his brother trained. Over with my brothers from Norfolk. Gosh, what's sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But and this is us going out with Rashad, who was at the time currently undefeated and had a American title and an Intercontinental title as well. And Donnell, who was behind him, who was currently at that time, he was the heavyweight. He was 32-0. Roy Jones had just called him out to fight Sam Peter. And that was when Roy Jones was commentating on HBO. And he was like, Donnell, you got to get this, come get this smoke. And we were really in the real thick of things. So what was the deal is I took this guy, I built him up, and he went from 208 to 238, all muscle, lean, and he got to spar with the pros. He physically asked my coach, and that's a scary thing, to if he could spar. So he said, he looked at him and he let him. My guy went in there, took the heavyweight, who was currently the WBF and the WBO. He was Intercontinental in one and champion in the other. So he had a UK belt and one over here. Went in there and did a jab drill, and he was supposedly just to throw the jab and landed on our other boxer, heavyweight, who was a heavyweight, 6'5", a full 248, 255. We went in there and threw the pop, pop, pop. Second round, my coach told him, throw the right hand this time and just defend it. And the heavyweight was like, oh no, this dude hit hard. And he never talked back to my coach. So it was a funny story. So he realized that I developed this kid into something that was actually worthy of being used in high level boxing, even though the kid wasn't even a pro yet. That's how I got it introduced. He started to pay closer attention to the systems. And next thing you know, we started using them. And see, this is what I mean by understanding muscle systems and training with weights and knowing what are the actual echelons of developing an athlete. And so it went through the beta test. I got it tested over at colleges when I was at State, one at Carolina. My buddy named Ray went through the process over at Duke University. And what I wanted to find out is what impact does it have overall, not just one kind of workout, but collectively being on this system, how would it impact me? And he was an actual trainer himself, and it literally transformed him and the way that he trained and worked with those athletes over at Duke University. And so data, plus what I was proving in the world of world championship boxing. And then Coach Trevor Graham took pieces and pieces and pieces of what I did and worked with his athletes, which were Marion Jones, Sean Crawford, Melissa Barber, Mickey Barber, and Justin Gatlin, which were all gold medal Olympians. So therefore, we understood what I was building for the industry was going to get all thumbs up. And that's what this is. So I want to introduce you guys through all my journey and save you 10,000 hours. And that's what this is all about. So understanding muscle systems and training, please tag the person that you know needs to hear this kind of thing so that when they start working with athletes, that they really understand how to do this thing in a way that will serve their athletes. Because what we're going to teach you next and go over is the dynamic warm-up. So just stay tuned, because what you're going to get out of this is a lot. And if you have not subscribed, well, that's on you. But here's the tea. When you come and learn about the dynamic warm-up method, and then you see what role it plays in control eccentric training, understanding the negatives and understanding building more oxygen for the body and actually having your body look fluidly loose and devastating with muscle, but spacing, oxygen, blood flow, coordination, and reaction, twitch muscles. So I'm looking forward to doing that. If this one gave you a little more than what you expected, please hit that like button so that it notifies you when we go and do this again. And I'm going to take you through a series of 12 steps in developing muscles using weight training for fitness training or competitive. So that's all I got for all of you guys who literally have reached out. I had a young man reach out yesterday and said he had the fire to fight and he's been sparring and training. He's 50 years old and he asked, was that too old? And I said, if you believe in your heart is too old, then it's too old. But one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, why am I doing this? What's your purpose? What do you want out of this? Or do you just have an impulse? Because when you understand what you're going to do and why you're doing it, it has purpose behind it. And when you have purpose behind what you do, then it's going to have a much better result. So without any further ado, just make sure you understand why you're doing it. It doesn't matter if you are doing it for yourself and it seems late in life. The only advice I have is understanding that your body takes more damage because you have to understand more about whole food nutrition and supplementation. So this week, we're going to get into a lot of whole foods and putting in the proper fruits, herbs, and vegetables into your body. Next week, we'll also have Jolie Glassman coming on to speak specifically about an energy drink that we're going to introduce to you guys. And everything is going to be all natural. Understanding how to implement weight training to reconstruct your body and your muscles is going to be the absolute onslaught of what we're taking part in this week. So if that sounds like what you've been trying to acquire in your life to take it to the next level, then like always, save this video and follow for more. And I'll see you guys soon in the Winner's Circle broadcast that's above on Instagram and Facebook. If you have either of those, make sure you go subscribe. It's absolutely free. And all we give you every single day is game. That's all I got, man. Be blessed. Save this video and tag that rascal that you know needs to hear this, who does not understand, truly understand, there's a science to lifting weights to improve your muscular structure and your output. So long. Peace.